All right. And there was light. Thank you. Again, this is time management, and I think I've got the keynote up. I'll just say, I guess I should have said this at the beginning, I don't usually provide handouts and notes for people, just because I don't want you to search for the word that I want you to know, and be watching for that. And some of you, that drives you nuts because you're like blank filling kind of people. And rather, I would just really love it if whatever makes sense for you in your context, you write it down. And so if it annoys you because I didn't provide a handout, I apologize, and I thank you in advance for your forgiveness. But we'll have some fun together. Anyways, well, we are talking about time management today, and about taking hold of our time. And the title of my little workshop here is Running on Fumes, and I've subtitled it Lessons from a Gas Gauge. Because the eternal address of souls to the people that we minister to is not something we just hope happens or that everything works out for. We need to plan and be purposed. In the same way, the quality time that we spend with family and children needs to be a priority. We'll never accomplish both of these effectively if we do not understand how to truly manage our time and projects in a way that helps us accomplish more while letting our minds rest when it's appropriate. Some of you in this room manage job, manage family, manage ministry, and a lot of other things. Others have so many different things in ministry that pull you away from what you truly want to do, that time management is an important thing. For instance, how many of you are on staff full-time at a church? Raise your hand up. Okay? How many of you, those of you who are hired full-time, you are able to devote 100% of your time to what you were hired to do? Youth pastor or children's pastor? You don't ever have to go set up chairs. You don't ever have to gas up the van. You don't ever have to... You were hired to do that. Okay, so that's exactly. Yeah. Even though, and I think that's a misconception that people have is that the people who are full-time as youth pastor or children's pastor spend all of their time writing lessons, spending time with children or teenagers, and the reality is that there are so many things, the responsibilities that are not just about studying and preparation, that you have to manage time just as effectively as the people who are volunteer or part-time. And so I think this is an important lesson for us today, so that we can learn really how to reach kids and teenagers better than ever. We really don't like the phrase, time's up, do we? Ever have one of those tests in school where it was a timed test and you're like writing feverishly and you're thinking and you're studying, trying to do everything that you can, and at the end it's like time's up and you had 3 questions left at the end of the time, right? Man, you just hate that, and it bothers me. And so, as we look at time management, it's probably not uncommon for people here in this room to come into a time for a service, whether it's a Sunday or a Wednesday, and not really have everything prepared that we wanted to, or to go into a staff meeting where you had a job or a responsibility, and they're asking you to make account for what you've done, and you didn't get it done on time, and so you're scrambling, you're running from this to this to this to try to get everything done. On top of that, your mind is filled with just a swarm of things that you've got to do. It's like, oh, I can't forget to do this, and then it just builds and builds and builds, and it occupies your mind. And that phrase, the time's up, and all these things. So our goal today is to put some principles into practice that I really believe you already know and you already use in one area of your life, to see how we can deliver things on time, reduce your stress, and increase the quality time that you have with the ones that you love the most. We do have a scriptural foundation for it this morning. Genesis 1. God created, and there was evening, and there was morning, and there was the first day. In the very beginning, God set up and said, look, you're going to have 24 hours a day to accomplish things. So there's going to be a beginning and an end. And I'm functioning in time constraints. You can function in time constraints. God showed us that there would be a limited amount of time to accomplish things because there was a beginning and an end. Ephesians 5:16 tells us that we're supposed to redeem the time because the days are evil. Well, if God did things on a time schedule and then He says to us that we should redeem the time, clearly learning how to manage time, how to maximize the hours in the day is something that we should be able to do because He's commanded us, or He's instructed us in the Scripture to do that. We can learn how to use time wisely. And then finally, Romans 12:2 says that we are to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. So if we are people who are consistently stressed and overwhelmed with the sheer number of tasks to get projects done, or for running late, we can transform it. We can learn to manage our time because we can just simply learn new ways to do things and renew our minds. We can transform that through the methods and the things that God has established for us so that we can be transformed. Quickly, by raising your hands, how many of you have ever stressed about a deadline? If you are not raising your hand, please leave now. This is not a group therapy session, but I think every one of us is in the same boat. We have stressed about how to get things done on time. It's like that deadline is coming. Let's just take it, for instance, and talk about taxes. Anybody ever stressed about getting your taxes filed on time? Yeah, a few of us have. Yeah, deadlines, they come and they go, and sometimes we stress about them, and it just really, it creates a lot of mental work and effort for us to get things done on the deadline. Maybe it's a Sunday morning or a Wednesday night and things weren't quite ready. I don't know how many times in youth ministry I'd walk into a Wednesday night where I actually literally had nothing down to say. Because of all of the other things that crept in, and the thing that was the most important got pushed aside because the other things tended to be more urgent and requiring my attention. And so we end up being stressed, and it causes us a lot of stress in our life, and we spend a lot of mental awareness on things at church. So even when we get home, we really can't rest. We can't let our minds be at peace. Well, it is time that you discovered that you already have everything you need to make deadlines, reduce the stress, and increase the energy that you have to invest in your family. You already have it. How many of you believe me? All right. Well, let's just help you prove it here today. Let me ask this simple question. Have you ever run out of gas in your car? Do you do it on a regular basis? No. We've done it maybe once, or maybe there's one. No? All right. We run out of gas maybe once or twice, but more often than not, we make the deadline of beating an empty tank of gas by getting our car to the gas station and getting it filled up. What is it about gas in the car that's different than everything else that we manage and everything else that we do? As we look at what is in the gas gauge, I think we'll discover some principles of things that will help us. So as we reveal what you already know about your gas gauge, and not running out of gas will help you to keep from running on fumes. The first thing that you do to avoid running out of gas is this: you trust your gauge. You trust your gauge. You can make your way in your car because you have a system that you can trust. You have a system that you can trust. That's the first step in managing your time and managing your tasks, is getting a system that you can trust. Okay? When it comes to time management, the biggest reason for stress and missed deadlines or incomplete projects is the system we use or the system that we don't use. We often do not trust our system. Not because there's not enough systems available, but we've not used those systems in a way that fosters trust. For instance, if your inbox is full, and mine is right now because I'm traveling and I'm out of my system I trust, but if your inbox is full and you repeatedly are scrolling through looking for, okay, what's next, and you're passing by the same email over and over and over, multiple times in a day, several days in a week, until finally it's like, oh yeah, I need to get to this. May I suggest to you that that's a system that you are not trusting right now? because you're scrolling through it, and think of how much time you are spending cumulatively by scrolling through all of those emails on a daily basis to try to find the one. And you skim it, and you get the next, and you skim it, and you hit the next. How much time are we spending? And so I think that maybe, and I'm not suggesting that email inbox is a system that you can't trust, but maybe we're not using it in a way that allows us to trust it. Here's another example. If you find yourself exerting an overabundance of energy to remember a simple task, I can't forget to, possibly you've laid awake at night trying to remember this, that maybe you are not utilizing a system that you can trust. A couple of months ago, I think it was a year ago or so, I was getting ready to go overseas to Africa, and so I had some pills that I had to take several days in a row. And one night I had gone to bed, and I needed to take it in the morning or whatever it was. Anyways, I laid in bed at night thinking about the pill I needed to take in the morning. And I laid awake literally for probably 2 hours trying not to forget that I need to take a pill in the morning. Rather than getting up, writing a note, putting the thing on the counter, sticking it beside my bed or whatever, I laid awake at night thinking, don't forget to take this pill in the morning. Now, if you've ever done that with, man, I can't forget to call so-and-so, I can't forget to write this down, and you've done that and laid awake, maybe you need a system that you trust. Your gas gauge in your car is a system you trust. Whenever you're driving down the road and you see that meter falls down closer to, a quarter or below the quarter, you know that it's time to get to the gas tank, to the gas station. But if it routinely were to fall down and then it would pop up and down and up, or if you couldn't see it or whatever, you wouldn't trust that gas gauge, would you? And you'd be stressing out, well, I don't know if today, even though it says it's full, I might run out of gas on the way to work. Right? But you trust your gas gauge, and we need a system that we can trust. Chances are, if these are typical for you, then you may not be trusting your system. So here's some ways that you can identify mistrust. If you are managing multiple systems instead of utilizing them, that might be a sign. So in other words, if you have multiple systems for task management, project management, and you spend most of your time managing those systems instead of letting those systems help you accomplish what you need to, you might not have a system that you trust. And with the plethora of resources available to us to help us manage our tasks, it's very easy and very likely that you have far too many tasks or far too many management systems, and you're managing those rather than getting the true work done that you need to. If you're using it, here's another way to identify mistrust. If you're using a system imposed by others rather than what helps you be efficient. So maybe in your church, you have a system that somebody says you have to use this system, and it just stresses you out to work it. You might not be using something that's helping you be efficient. Or maybe you came to a conference like this and you heard a speaker say, well, you should use this task system, and maybe it's a day planner or whatever, and it's just not working for you, but it worked for them. Listen, there is no one system that's going to work for everybody. You need to find the system that works for you, the system that you can trust. So if you're using something that's imposed by others that's not working, it's not helping you be efficient. If you use a system, but your mind is unable to release those tasks. You see, when you get a job that comes into your mind, like call so-and-so volunteer to encourage them. When it comes into your mind only has one way or two ways to really get it out of your mind. To do it right then, and then it's closed. The circle is closed and it's out. Or to write it down in that system that you trust, and then you can close the gap and you can move on from it. But until you do one of those two things, your mind is going to continue to exert effort to remember, I need to call volunteer so-and-so to encourage them or to thank them. So if your mind's not unable to release tasks, you might not be using a system you trust. If your inbox is a system you trust, but here's a note. If your inbox is a system that you trust, if it's a system you trust, but you never unsubscribe from email newsletters, you never set up spam filters, and so you get junk in your inbox, you are letting everybody out there clutter your system, and that's resulting in it being a system you cannot trust. Inboxes are a very, very valuable tool for us today, but when we don't set the rules of what comes in, and we just let everything come in, imagine your task management. If you had a day planner that you wrote things down in on what you did, and anybody that wanted to could come into your calendar and your task management and write down whatever they wanted to, think of what it would do to your day. But that's what we do with our inbox, is we never truly manage what we allow to come into our inbox, and therefore it creates stress for us. Our second tip that we learned from a gas gauge is we have a limited number of gauges. Now, I don't know if you have a car like I do, but we bought a used vehicle that has the gas gauge like every car does, but it also has the low fuel light. Add to that, and every car has an odometer, and I know approximately how many miles I can go, but on our trip computer, it actually counts how many miles I've driven. Every time I fill up, it automatically resets to 0. So I can look at that and see how many miles I've gone on this tank of gas. Add to that I can tell exactly how many average miles I'm getting on a tank of gas, whether it's 16 or 20 miles to the gallon, and the trip computer tells me how many miles I have left until it's empty. You think, well, that's great. Yeah, but it creates stress because it's far too many tools to tell me how much gas I have left. And here's how it played out one time. We were taking a trip from South Dakota down to Missouri, and we were driving down, and we had passed Omaha, where there's plenty of gas stations, and my meter had gone down pretty low, and normally, if I had just trusted the meter, I would have pulled off, and I would have gotten gas. But because the gas light hadn't come on, the low light, because I saw how far I had gone and how far I could go and how many miles per gallon I was getting, I thought, you know what, I can probably make it to the next town, which is about 60 miles down the road, and I can get fuel there. So I drove past Omaha. The boys are sleeping in the back. My wife may have been taking a nap or whatever it was. I never ran out of gas, if you think that's what I was going to say. I didn't run out of gas, but the amount of stress I went through because I thought I could make it to the next one because I had too many systems. I had the same task written in 4 or 5 systems that were causing me stress because I was like, well, this one says I should probably fill. This one says I can go a little bit further. This one says for sure I can make it. And when we have too many meters and too many systems that we're trying to manage, that is a cause for stress. So I would encourage you that if your management system is one that you don't trust because you have the same task in multiple systems, that you know you wrote it down, but it's not where the rest of the information is, that maybe you have too many systems. Having multiple systems really isn't the problem, but having too many is. Some of you may use systems of stacks of documents on your desk, which is okay, with everything that needs your attention. Some of you use email inbox. Maybe you have multiple email accounts. So you have a Gmail, and you have a work account, and you have a Hotmail, and you happen to write your own website, and so you have your own website email address, and you have all of those things. Maybe it's just work and it's home, but you've got multiple email accounts. You've got multiple calendars that you use to keep you busy, or to keep things organized. You have day planners, notes on the fridge, sticky notes, task management software, voice memos, and the list can go on and on and on. And all of these are okay management systems, but when we have too many of them, it causes stress. So, how many is enough? Really, only you can know. But it's a balance. Just like you're the one who develops or knows the system that you trust, you're the one who knows how many systems you should have. But there's a balance. You have as few as possible, but as many as you need. So you try to get as few as you can, but you try to get as many as you need. Because if you have too few, you're going to have stress in your life. But if you have too many, you're going to have a mess in your life. Think of if you wrote your tasks in 7 different systems, and you said, okay, I know I need to do this, and you didn't know which system you had written it in. Well, now you've created a mess in your life because you've got to figure out where you wrote it down. So as few as possible, but as many as you need. Not because I want you to replicate what I do, but sometimes people need just a couple of ideas of how does this play out in somebody's life. So I will let you know, because just because I want you to have a frame of reference. Here's the systems that I use. Because I'm on a Mac, some of these are Mac only, but there's counterparts in Windows if you wanted to use that. I use Things, which is my task management software. And notice I'm not only telling you what the software title is, but exactly what I use it for. I use Things, which is tasks for me and ones that I've delegated. Because it's important, if you delegate things to people, you need to follow up on it. Another thing that causes you stress is if you say, hey, go fill up my car, but then you go out to your car and you never ask them, did you fill up my car with gas? And you get out there and it's empty still. That would cause you stress, wouldn't it? But if when they walked back in the door, you said, hey, did you get gas? And they said, no, actually I went out and got a cup of coffee, thanks. Well, now you'd know because you followed up with them, right? So we need a way to manage people that we have delegated tasks to, and I use Things for that. I insert the important notes, the deadlines, etc. into Things right there. I use Evernote. Evernote is a fantastic product. It is Mac and PC both. It's also internet-based, so you can access it anywhere. It comes on your mobile devices. So I use one system, but it synchronizes automatically across every platform. Any computer I get on, anywhere in the world, has access to all of these things that I call in my portable brain. So anytime I get a note, an email that's of importance, minutes from a meeting, things I found online that I think are cool, it automatically goes in there. It's really not task management, but it's helping me because it's a system that I use and I trust that stores everything that's of critical importance to me or interest that I might want to share with other people later. So as I'm thinking of sermons and things that I want to write, that's where everything goes that I store to begin collecting a group of information of things that I might want to share to you and to other people at some time down the road. So Evernote is one of those pieces I use. I use Entourage, which I really don't like, but that is my email client, and it's also my calendar. And I obviously in email, it's everything that's inbound that I respond to. And in my inbox, I have a couple of very simple things that I do. I either respond to it right away and delete it or file it. I either receive it as information that is critical and it goes into Evernote and filed in Evernote, or I take it as a task that needs to be done and I take that email and I copy it into Things because it's something I've got to do. So Things do not typically sit in my inbox longer than maybe a day or two. Right now is a little bit different. If you ask me to see my inbox, it would be full because I'm on the road. But usually when I'm in the office, people will look at my inbox and there will be less than 5 emails resting in there because I've managed them well, because I don't want to let that become something that's overwhelming to me, because I'm a person if I don't stay on it, I will go through the emails over and over and over and over, and I will waste a ton of time doing that. My calendar tells me where I need to go and when and who I'm having meetings with. And then finally, the last one is Grocery IQ. And you're like, what in the world is Grocery IQ? It is the world's coolest app for when you need to get groceries, because it's got a scanner on it, so you can like scan the barcode and it goes into your thing. You can like program it, say this grocery store for this and this grocery store for that, and it synchronizes between mine and my wife's phones. So I can be at work and I need snacks and I just put it in there, and she's at the grocery store. Oh, Mark needs snacks, and she can pick it up. So I just think it's cool. So you need to check it out. It's free, Grocery IQ. Check it out. All right, so these are some of the things that I use. Notice, if you would, what's missing on my task management system. Facebook is not there. Although I get emails occasionally or direct messages in Facebook and in Twitter, I do not encourage people to communicate me important and critical information on Facebook, because it never comes in. It's not a system I trust, because it doesn't go with me. It's not easily accessible. The system I trust is Entourage, although I really don't like it. I use it because it's one that our office, we have to use it because of that. Twitter is not on there. eBay is not on there. YouTube is not on there. These are okay things, but they are not designed to be task management, and so they are not in there. Here's another thing we learn from our gas gauge, is that we check it often. And if we're going to truly get a hold of our time, not only do we need a system that we trust and we limit the number of gauges, but we need to check it often. In other words, you need to return to it on a regular basis. If like me, a sticky note for you is something that you might write something down on, but then you put it aside and you never see it again, that's not a system you trust, and it will cause you stress, because you're not looking at it again. It's not clearly out of your mind because it's not the system you trust and you don't check it often. Your gas gauge is right in front of you, and you will see it every time you get in the car. And if you're like most people, you will probably look at it at least once per trip, if not multiple times, especially on long trips, to determine how much gas do you have and how long do you have until your next fill up. So limit the number of systems that you have, but check it often. And if you stop trusting it or stop looking at it, your stress level will rise. Here's a couple of questions that you should ask yourself. If you have a system you trust but are unable to access it when you need it, you will again have unnecessary stress. For instance, when you're driving home and something pops into your mind of, I've got to get this done. How do you record that? How do you get it done? Do you have a voice memo recorder? Do you text with your thumb while you drive? Does it just occupy your mind until you get home? That's something that's important to understand. For me, unofficially, I just text it in, put it right into my things. However, I am experimenting with a voice recognition software, and I don't know if you have Siri, but Siri might be able to help you out with that sometime. Remind me to do this. That would be great if you can get the iPhone 4S. But how do you do that? When you're in bed at night and something comes to your mind, if it's on your computer at the office, how do you get it down? Maybe you need a temporary system where you just write a note or you create a voice memo, but you know that you trust it only for temporary things until it gets into your permanent solution. Because if I were to do a voice memo, I would not check it regularly because I go to things for everything that I do. So if I use a voice memo, I have to make sure that I get in and I transfer it to my permanent system. So how do you get those things when you're driving, when you go to bed? Is it accessible to you? Equally important is that you set for yourself boundaries of a no technology zone, or that you know when not to check your system. Can you really turn it off so that you don't spend a lot of time in it? In our home, we have a technology-free zone, which is our backyard. We've hung up a little swing. I have a hammock back there. But we don't go back there with our phones and with our iPads. We go back there, and it's time just to hang out and have zero technology. So those things, things don't come in your mind and you start doing it. You focus on other things. You turn that off. Here's another thing about knowing when to check it. And I would strongly recommend this, especially when you're working on projects, that you turn off every single notification that you can. So if you have an email that pops up a little sound and a visual reminder every time an email comes in, turn it off. Go into your preferences and turn it off. If you're working on writing a sermon where you're expecting kids to come and get saved, and all of a sudden you hear about the greatest Groupon deal because your email pinged, is that really important? Turn it off. You're going to go back to the system you trust as soon as you're done. And you'll see what came in, and chances are it's not so critical that you have to know right now. Turn it off. Shut down your Twitter. Shut down your Facebook. And turn off every notification that when you get a message or a like or whatever, it comes to your inbox. Don't do that. You're going to go to Facebook every day anyways. You're going to check your Twitter on a regular basis. You don't need the interruption to say, hey, somebody just sent me a message. It's distracting you from what you need to accomplish during the day. So turn off every notification that you can. Unsubscribe to emails. Be diligent in getting rid of unnecessary interruptions in your day. If you're really doing work that matters, do you really want to be interrupted by social media? If you love to be interrupted by social media, but that's not the work that matters, you're wasting time. If social media is the work that matters, then leave the interruptions on because that's what you do. All right, moving on to our next one. Here's where it gets a little bit more technical and interesting as we proceed forward on this. And that is that we need a clear action step. When you're in your car and your gas gauge is getting low, your action step is get gas. There's no question on what you need to do. It's get gas. Stop at the nearest station or find the one that's got the lowest price or whatever it is. But it's a very clear action step. The goal is clear. Avoid an empty tank. The action step is clear. Get gas. It's measurable. I just got gas and it's done. You don't have to wonder if you're completed. Well, they tell you it's full, it's finished. It's also easy to delegate because it's a clear action step. Can you fill my car with gas? So you find a system you trust, you limit the gas gauges, but we have to be careful how we enter things into that system that we trust. The verbiage of action required is essential. Here's a poor example. Prepare the budget for 2012. That's a bad example. That's an important step. It's something that's got to be done. But think about what you need to get your budget prepared for 2012. Well, you might need profit and loss statements. You might need a history of previous year's budgets. You might need to plan out a calendar of events of what you want to accomplish in 2012 before you can ever get to a budget. So a better action step is compile a list of financial reports to requests from accounting. Because that's the next thing you've got to do. I'd like to suggest that if you have in your system you trust action steps that you go to over and over and over and they never seem to get done, it might be because there are more pieces that need to be done first and it's not written in a way that clearly tells your mind what to do. Because your mind isn't going to just naturally go to do budget for 2012, but it will go to, compile the list of the financial reports, the requests from accounting. That's a step that your mind can wrap around. Sometimes we end up with multiple action steps, and those things need to be compiled into a project. So maybe do budget for 2012 as the project, and then you'll have 4 or 5 action steps under that clearly tell your mind what to do as a way to get that project done. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. There is an action step abyss. We're going to get back to a little bit more in the action steps in a minute, but action step abyss is meetings. I don't know if you've ever been to meetings and you walk out of the meeting and you know it was important, you talked about good things, but you don't have a clue on who's doing what and when it's supposed to be done, and there's no accountability system to help you with that. A couple of good books to help you with this is Death by Meeting by Patrick Lencioni, and read this before your next meeting by an author that I can't remember. Both of those are great books to help you with meetings. Let me give you some basic tips on how to help you again with meetings. A lot of times we go into a meeting and we demand agendas. We want to know a list of everything we're going to talk about. Let me just give you something to try out. I'm not saying that agendas are bad. Agendas are good. But what you need instead of an agenda of what we're going to talk about is maybe an agenda or an objective of what we want to accomplish. So you've got to have an objective. Why am I here? I'm not here to talk. I'm here to do. I'm here to decide. I'm here to move forward. So what is your objective? Do you want me to make a decision? Do you want me to give you advice? Do you want me to have you hit a wall and you need a creative solution? Why am I here? What is the objective of today? Let me give you an example of a situation that we're in right now. We're working on a family devotional for children, a family devotion for parents with elementary age kids that's connected to the Fire Bible for Kids. So we've had people write things, but we are at a crossroads because we typically market to churches, and we believe this is a thing that we would want to market to parents. But we don't have parents in our database. So we have a meeting where we will talk about the objective is how do we market to parents. That's clear. We go in, we talk for however long we need to, under an hour or whatever, but the objective is clear. How do we market this to parents? And we log the ideas, we make decisions, and we move from there. So when you go into a meeting to avoid the abyss of action steps in meetings, make sure you've got a clear objective. The second part is to log every critical decision that is made. I don't need a summary of who said what and who made this motion and who recommended we do that. That's important, but it's not critical. When we leave the meeting, we want to know what did everybody agree on as critical decisions and how we're moving forward. That's the important stuff. Secondly, you want to again record every actionable item. So if somebody says, you know what, I'm going to do market research to figure out how everybody else is marketing to moms and dads, I say, do market analysis, and behind it, this is the way I do it. I put the name of the individual and when it's going to be due. Before the next meeting, by this day, or if they're going to hand it off to the next person, I put that in there because I need a record with the exact step of what they're going to accomplish, who's responsible, and when it's going to be due. And that helps you avoid the abyss. This is important because when we work with teams, If we have not done this, we've set ourselves up for additional stress down the road because we have no way to go back and review who's doing what. So this will help you. And then finally, the last thing that you do to avoid the meeting step or the action step abyss is to review those notes before the end of the meeting. Before you dismiss, you have one person who's been recording the objective, the decisions, and the action steps, and they simply go through and review and say, I've got this, and this that were down, and people say, okay, you missed this one somebody else is going to take care of. They correct it, they restate it to you, you dismiss, and you go out. And people are much more efficient during that time. Now let's get back to the discussion on how to record items into your system. When you put things into your system, these are the different action step entry points. The first one is be specific. What is the next thing you need to do? And write it down in that way. Word it in a way that tells your mind what you need to accomplish. This is more important for newer tasks. For instance, doing laundry does not need you to say, go into room, find the closet, pull out the hamper, sort by color. You don't need those action steps because you do it on a regular basis. But if your action step was build the Eiffel Tower, you've never done that before. You need a couple more steps that you're going to have before you get there. So you need to figure out what is the next thing that you need to do. Sometimes it's better to add a little more detail, but make sure that you create white space. In other words, how do you have separation from one task to another? If you find yourself avoiding things, you might need to word them in a way that tells your mind what you need to do. And after you put them in the system that you trust and will return to, you might immediately begin feeling your mind relaxing just a little bit because you can look at the system and it tells you exactly what you've got to do. The next point of this is to do the mind work. And mind work is a thing that probably a lot of us skip over. Maybe we call it brainstorming or something else, but really the truth of the matter is when you've got a project that you need to do, for instance, build the Eiffel Tower or plan the world's most amazing Easter egg hunt or get a large youth outing, there's a lot of steps that are accomplished in that. A brainstorming session is going to help you be creative on what you're going to accomplish, but doing the mind work is, what do I need to do? What steps can I identify today that need to be done? What teammates can I employ to be a part of this? When I say employ, it doesn't mean paid, but can I enlist to be a part of this? And what role are they going to accomplish? And let me just say this about working with volunteers and recruiting people. If you can define the win and say, this is the win in this situation, here's what I want you to accomplish and when you're going to be done, more often than not, you will get the yes because you've clearly defined the objective, what service they're going to provide, and when they're going to be finished. And I'd also like to recommend that during the mind work that you don't begin contacting people immediately. If you need bus drivers, or if you need decorators, or if you need people to provide food for a fusion event, and you don't know who to contact, but you start building a list of people that you can go to, you just throw down every name that you can. And can I recommend in the church that when you do this, don't start saying no for people. You know, well, they'd be great, but man, they just took a full-time job. Or man, but she just had a baby or whatever. Don't say no for them. Give them the honor of the ask. I thought of you. I know that your schedule might be busy, but I think you'd be fantastic in this role, and I want to give you the opportunity to partner with us in this. Let them say no. Because if you say no for them, they might be the number 10 on your list. And because you've said no, you've moved to number 9. Because they just got a new job, you might move to number 8. And before you finally get to somebody that you feel like might say yes, you're at a 2. But really the 10 might have loved the opportunity to partner with you. Maybe God was working in their heart. So don't say no for people. Allow them to be the people that say no. So do the mind work on getting the details and the teammates and all these things. And finally, it's to review and purge. Sometimes you put things in your to-do list that really aren't important. They felt important at the time, but you need to review and get it out of there because it's really not important, and that's okay to do that. Maybe you need to inspect somebody who you've delegated things to, or you need to assign it because somebody more talented than you or more gifted is going to do that for you. The next part is to develop a routine. You know, it's not uncommon for you in your car when your gas gauge gets low for you to probably fill at the same maybe 2 or 3 gas stations. You found they've got good price, they've got good lighting, the scanners work on the card most of the time. And probably, is it true in Oregon still that you don't fill your own gas? Lazy. It's beautiful. You love it. All right. That's why you love Green Bay. Because you're deceived. You're so... Okay. So, but you go to get gas, right? And you probably go to the same station all the time. Maybe for you it's because you like the attendant and they take care of you well, right? Okay? And so you do that. You've developed a routine and you figured it out. We need to develop a routine when it comes to task management and when it comes to project management and managing our time. Some of these things that you should do would be, again, a couple of books. Maybe let's throw these out, these helps out here. Would be Getting Things Done by David Allen and the Pomodoro Technique. Anybody ever heard of the Pomodoro Technique? Very simple. I'll capture it for you in a nutshell. You set your day in 25-minute blocks. You shut everything off except the topic you're working on. You get this little tomato 25-minute timer. You turn it on, tick, 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 tick. And for 25 minutes, you work on one project. And when the timer goes off, you stop. You take a 5-minute break. You chit-chat. You check with your Facebook, whatever. 5 minutes is up. You set the timer for 25 minutes and you sit down and focus. Tick, 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 tick. And you do that all day long. Guess what? They even have iPad and iPhone apps that will tick for you. Just do an app search for the Pomodoro Technique and it will help tick for you, okay? So you don't even have to have a little tomato. But when you have projects that need mind work, that need work, maybe it's your message and turn the tick off. It would annoy me to death. I'd probably throw the thing out the window, okay? But it's a good habit to get into to say, you know what, I can live with 25 minutes of shutting everything else out and don't allow people to interrupt you. And if they do, you have to start your Pomodoro over again. But you focus for 25 minutes, and every time there's an interruption, you record it, and you can see how many times you're interrupting your day, and that technique will help you. Getting Things Done by David Allen gets into a lot of details, even to how close you put your stapler to your, to access. So it's very detailed, but some very good resources for you. I'd recommend you do it. But some routine issues would be record the task immediately. As soon as it comes into your mind, record it. Put it down so you don't forget it. If you have non-productive days, like a day you come to the office and you're just totally fried and you spend half the time searching YouTube for the perfect video, that's really not a productive day. It's okay once in a while to do that, but don't make that a habit. You have not been hired to find the best YouTube video, right? Having or not having the best YouTube video should not make or break your Wednesday night or Sunday morning. It should just be the icing on the cake. So please don't spend 2 hours every week looking for the perfect YouTube video. Have a volunteer do that. Record your activities on the calendar or a worksheet or something to see your productivity. Here's another couple of things. Your computer has been equipped with amazing keyboard shortcuts. And you think, well, how big? I have stood painfully by watching people that don't know keyboard shortcuts like Control-P will take them immediately to print. You think, well, man, it's just move your mouse up to file and print. Yeah, but you do that how many times during a week, a month, and a year? Think of them. How many copy, paste, print, hide, open? Did you know that there's a keyboard shortcut for opening programs, whether you're on Windows or PC? Learn to do these things. Learn to type faster. Learn to type more accurately. And you might be laughing saying, this is ridiculous. Trust me, if you do these things, the amount of time in a lifetime or a year that you will save can be astronomical. And if you're faster at these things and you just watch somebody that's really not comfortable doing that, and you'll begin to understand how painful it is to watch them just kind of slowly go through life and how to do things. So learn those things. There are ways that you can learn this. Again, the eternal destination of the people that we work for is important. We don't want to be missing deadlines. We don't want to be coming up short and coming up late. The amount of time that we have to truly spend with family where we can invest energy and time and life and fun is so important. We've got to learn how to get things into a system to manage our time so that we have the more time to do the things that we want to with those that we love, and we can be more effective to the people who need to hear about Jesus. Any questions? Any thoughts, ideas?
The meeting tips that you gave, is that how you run every staff meeting or just bigger board meetings?
Good question. There's a couple of different ways that we do meetings. There's a couple of different kinds of meetings that we do. And I think they need to be clearly distinct from each other. Sometimes a meeting is, everybody, let's get updated on where we are. And let's just kind of update that way. But a lot of times where we drop the ball is where it's a critical meeting about maybe an event, a project, and we pull people together because we've got questions and problems to work through. And so it's different than an update meeting. It's let's move forward meeting. And that's where the objectives and the decisions need to happen. Because, when did we decide that we were going to not use buses? We were going to have people pick up people to come in. You need a record of that so that you can come back and look at it later. And who was it that was going to line up and announce all that? That's where that comes out. So in a staff meeting, I don't know if your board and staff meeting or your staff meetings are like they were when I was on staff, but we would spend a little time in prayer. We kind of go around and get updates on things. And then sometimes we'd get into where those critical decisions were made. And so at that point, I'd say, if you're covering that, switch to what is our objective and hold people to it. Your team will appreciate, even if you're not the one running the meeting, your team will begin to appreciate you for helping them clarify what was decided and who's doing what, even if you're not the chair of that meeting. So that's something that you can do even before you ever call a meeting. Great question. Any other questions? All right. God bless you. I don't know what time I'm supposed to be done. Is that all right? I started 2 minutes late, so maybe I end 2 minutes late because I don't know how to manage my time. God bless you.
We're going to do it. We're going to do a turn on break, so if you still want to buy something from his product table, it looks like you're still up on there, right?